representatives of the BC Wildfire Service. And with us from the City of Penticton today, John Vasilaki, the Mayor, and the City Manager is Donnie Van Dyke. He'll be, both of those gentlemen will be making some comments. And of course, Carla Kozakovich, the Chair of the Regional District of Okanagan, Similkameen, will have a few comments as well. So we'll hear from our guest speakers, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So for those of you watching at home, if you want to watch the Q&A portion, that'll happen at the end. Our comments will be kept pretty short at the beginning, so you won't have to wait for too long for the Q&A, and we'll get going in just a few moments. I want to remind you as well, if you're watching on Facebook, we do have the closed captioning enabled. Closed captioning is enabled for those folks who need to use that service. All right, we'll get going in just a few moments. How long? About a minute away from joining Global News Live, and we'll get going.
It's like we keep doing this looking, but oh, they do. Oh, I see.
Or did you just, yeah?
I was just going to say, Nina, I heard a note about we're going to add the closed caption at the end.
Yeah. And we're live now. So yeah. Closed captioning, will it be available during the actual broadcast?
No, it'll be after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
About 30 seconds.
Okay. Stand by, everybody. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds. We're going to be live on Global as well as Facebook, which we're live on right now. Castanet, are you live as well? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, Castanet's with us as well. Good to know. And we'll get
CK News channel is taking you live across the country too.
Oh, excellent! I did not know that. Where are you? Where's the camera?
It's pooling.
Oh, you're pooling. Okay, I was going to say, is there a camera I didn't see? Okay, well, thank you.
30 seconds now, actually. 30.
Okay. Hi.
Stand by. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on the traditional territory of the Syilx Okanagan peoples here in the city of Penticton. My name is Eric Thompson. I'm an information officer with the Regional District of Okanagan Similkameen Emergency Operations Center, and we'll get started in just a few moments. We'll introduce our guest speakers. First of all, we'd like to remind folks who are here in the room with us to continue to practice social distancing, physical distancing, which they are doing. Everyone is also wearing masks. I have one with me, but for the purpose of speaking at the podium, I won't be wearing it for now. Also, we have closed captioning enabled on our Facebook feed. It will be available after this news conference, from what I'm told. And for the latest information on the Christie Mountain wildfire, please follow BC Wildfire Service, the City of Penticton, and the Regional District of Okanagan Similkameen on social media. You can also visit the websites of all three of those agencies to get the latest information on this wildfire. We'll begin with opening comments from Nicole Bonnet. Nicole is with BC Wildfire Service. She has a couple of her colleagues here as well, and a few of them will be available. We'll then go into comments from the Mayor of Penticton, John Vasilaki. We'll hear from RDOS Chair Carla Kozakovich, as well as the City Manager for the City of Penticton, Donnie Van Dyke. After our comments, which will be fairly brief, we will have time for Q&A. So we'll have a question and answer session for the media here, and now those of you watching at home, you'll be able to see that as well. So we'll get things started. If we could ask Nicole Bonnet to join us now. She is an information officer with BC Wildfire Service.
Good afternoon. So I'm joined here by Mitch Pence. He is the IC, the incident commander for the incident management team that has transitioned into the zone today, and will be officially taking over the incident a little while later this afternoon. So we're going to let Mitch give a little bit of a background, and then I'll be able to cover some more of the specific fire points for today.
Sorry, it's taking me a while to get used to that. Yeah, good afternoon. I just rolled in today. With my incident management team, we'll be taking over. The local folks have been doing the job there quite well for the last couple of days, and yeah, we're going to be in the transition mode of doing a turnover with them, and then my team will be taking over full on and establishing an ICP that we can work out of and take over operations and yeah, continue with doing what we do best. Well, anything else?
So just on that note, we'll say we did update the fire size to 2,000 hectares a little bit earlier today. Part of that is for anybody who's local here, seen photos, you'll notice that there was a substantial amount of smoke in the valley yesterday around noon into the early evening. Part of that smoke was obviously from the Christie mountain fire, but also came from the fire just across the border in the States. So we weren't able to get out and get a good track of it yesterday afternoon. So hopefully maybe we'll be able to do that again a little bit later on today. And overnight we had 40 firefighters on site working with structure protection and water tenders. So they're working on the southwest flank of the fire, continuing the control line there, and they were able to put in a 10-foot black line last night. And so things were looking fairly good. Quiet fire activity, so just a small sort of smoldering ground fire, rank 1, rank 2, in and around the values. The more active portion of the fire was further south above the Skaha Bluff area, which is good because that's away from the community. And then today there was 80 firefighters out there this morning with a 5th unit crew that arrived a little bit later on this morning for a total of 100 firefighters out there, along with structure protections, fire department, and the water tenders again to support them on the ground. We've also got aircraft assigned to the incident, so there are 9 helicopters right now, and the air tankers are available. That is the fixed wing aircraft in the form of skimmers and tanker groups, so they will be available to fly as visibility permits. Yesterday afternoon that posed a bit of a challenge just because they come with some visibility requirements. So they did spend some time working in the evening on different portions of the fire where visibility was better, which a little bit further outside of town. And I think we'll leave it there until the question period.
All right, thank you very much. That's Nicole Bonnet. She's an information officer with BC Wildfire Service, and her colleague as well. We're now going to invite John Vasilaki to the podium. John is the mayor of the city of Penticton, where we are right now.
I can't get used to this either. Thank you very much for having me here today. I hope the media didn't embarrass you too much yesterday by making a comment that you weren't distancing. I see everybody's following regulations today, and that's super. I'm glad to hear it. And Dr. Henry will be very pleased as well. You know, I have all the confidence in the world with BC Fire and Emergency Service or Wildfire Service. By the number of aircraft that continuously fly over my home, I can tell you they're so low that I can almost touch them if I jump high enough. So that's a great relief to see that all that equipment is working, and we have so many men on the ground and women on the ground to take care of the problem that we're having. Again, I'd like to thank the media for joining us today and following the social distancing protocol. Today, I'm going to leave the update on our response to the experts with the BC Wildfire Service, the RDOS, and City of Penticton staff in the Emergency Operations Center. The focus of my message is on encouraging citizens in the evacuation area, alert area, or pre-register with emergency support services through their website, or they can attend in person at the barn, the Blue Barn, or where the, as Pentictonites will know, was the bus depot's service for their buses at the bottom of Ella Street. Normally, people are asked to register once they are evacuated. We are asking you to register now because of the number of people who may be affected. Through registration, we'll know who needs accommodations, transportation, medical assistance, and other supports, and who has been able to meet their needs through their network of friends and family. This will allow us to more effectively plan our response in the event of an evacuation and reduce the stress for individuals who need to evacuate. If you are in the evacuation alert or order areas, please visit the Government of British Columbia Evacuee Registration and Assistance website at ess.gov.bc.ca. Again, it's ess.gov.bc.ca. And click on the Self-Register Now button. It is a bright yellow button. It's very difficult to miss it. Also, if you have access to a computer and know of someone who does not, who is affected, please help your neighbor and friends and assist them with registering. I am pleased to hear that 700 people have already registered with the website. While every effort is being made to contain the wildfire and prevent an evacuation in the city of Penticton, any step we can take to prepare for that situation is very important. I thank you very much once again, and please stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Vasilaki. Thank you very much. Again, that's John Vasilaki, the Mayor of the City of Penticton. We'll now invite the Chair of the Regional District of Okanagan, Similkameen, also known as the RDOS. Carla Kozakovich is with us now for a few words as well. And just a quick note, Donnie Van Dyke is the City Manager with the City of Penticton. He'll be up next for some quick comments, and then we'll get to our question and answer session.
Great, thank you very much, Eric. Good afternoon, everyone, and I sincerely appreciate all of you joining us today. I'd like to confirm that the evacuation order that was issued by the RDOS for 319 properties in the Heritage Hills area of Electoral Area D is still in place, as well as the evacuation alerts issued by both the RDOS and the City of Penticton for approximately 3,700 homes. Yesterday, we did announce the loss of a home due to the Christie Mountain wildfire. This is extremely sad news and obviously devastating to the property owners as well as to the residents of the Heritage Hills community. The RDOS will coordinate a rapid damage assessment and work with the family to assist them during this difficult time. The rapid damage assessment will assist the homeowners with their insurance process. On behalf of the RDOS Board of Directors, I would like to thank the BC Wildfire Service and all first responders for their hard work and dedication, including the fire departments, both our local departments and the ones out of area providing mutual aid throughout the valley. Also our RCMP, search and rescue, paramedics, and the countless volunteers that are working with emergency support services, the Canadian Red Cross, and others to provide assistance to the evacuees. And thank you to the media and the public who continue to help us with our messaging. And I'd like to remind everyone who are in the evacuation alert area, now is the time to activate your household emergency response plan. And if you don't have a plan, now is the time to get prepared. And if you need some assistance with that, you can contact the RDOS. We have information on preparing this kit through our website at rdos.bc.ca. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carla Kozakovich, Chair of the Regional District of Okanagan, Similkameen. If I can just add one point on that, I had a chance yesterday to speak with the volunteers with Alert, Animal Lifeline Emergency Response Team, and they want to remind anyone who is in the alert zone, if you have a pet that is difficult to move, say for example it's a large aggressive dog, now is the time to make arrangements for that dog rather than showing up at a reception center and having to try and find accommodations for the dog at that point, some sort of a billet. All right, now Donnie Van Dyke, City Manager with the City of Penticton, and then our question and answer session.
Thank you, Eric. Just a few brief updates to provide today. So From the City of Penticton perspective, today offered an opportunity to prepare for the strong winds we expect tomorrow. Should this fire behavior trigger the movement of alerts into evacuation orders, we've gone out of our way to prepare three specific areas. The first is, as the mayor said today, any residents in the evacuation area alert, we'd ask that they pre-register for the evacuee registration and assistance tool. As the mayor mentioned, that's available at ess.gov.bc.ca. That tool has many benefits. Probably first and foremost, it allows the city and emergency officials to plan for transportation, plan for accommodation, plan for food and dietary restrictions, plan for medical supplies. It also has the added benefit that if you register with that tool, you will not need to attend our reception center in person unless you, of course, will be dropping off, say, an animal. So at that reception center. So again, register online. It will mean that you do not need to attend the reception center in person. Second of all, if you are unable to use the online tool, the city mid-morning this morning has stood up its call center. So we will have city staff available to register you for that tool. And the phone number is 250-490-2345. So again, 250-490-2345, and that will be directed to our emergency operations center that can assist you with registering for the evacuee registration and assistance tool. Second of all, we've taken the opportunity that today provided to move critical city equipment, as well as prepare for city personnel that are critical to the operations of the city that are currently in the evacuation alert area. So those plans and initiatives have been undertaken. This is, as well, has been coordinated with significant planning for both evacuation transportation as well as evacuation accommodation, as well as accommodation and resources for the provincial resourcing and fire crews we may need to host should fire behavior warrant. So we're standing up multiple sites currently and preparing for additional sites. Finally, it should be noted that as early as this afternoon, residents in the alert area may see city as well as other fire crews beginning structural protection efforts. That could be setting up equipment, that could be gathering information, that could be talking to residents and neighbors to prepare for structural protection efforts. So that could begin as early as this afternoon, and that will be done in preparation should fire behavior escalate and trigger evacuation orders. So that's everything for me. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Donnie Van Dyke, City Manager with the City of Penticton. And what we're going to do now is a quick question and answer session. We're going to start with Nicole Bonnet with BC Wildfire Service. It's a bit challenging with masks, so I think what we'll do is we'll have Nicole come up. She'll probably just stay at the podium for a while because I think a lot of the questions will be for Nicole. She may bring one of her colleagues in. And then at that point, if there is a question that's specifically going to one of the other members, our guest speakers, we'll kind of rotate them in as best we can. But we'll start with BC Wildfire Service. Two quick notes I want to make, if I can. The local cycling association, PACA, is reminding mountain bikers and cyclists to stay out of some of these sensitive areas that are either under evacuation alert or, of course, an evacuation order. For our friends here in the media, it's really important to stay out of an area that is under evacuation order for your own safety and also to allow the first responders to do their work. I was speaking earlier with Nicole Bonnet. There's a conversation underway about looking at getting some pool footage from inside some of the evacuated areas. We do have to, of course, keep in mind the privacy and security of those residents. So with that, I will bring up Nicole Bonnet.
Yes.
Can you tell me some of the difficulties with the ground crews battling the fire, where it is located right now, and basically how much air operations are happening today?
Yeah, so where the fire started was in a little bit of a gully, and it was the perfect mixture of topography and weather coming into play, which caused the fire to take off quite quickly and basically wick its way up the gully. So it is burning in some fairly nasty terrain. It's pretty rocky, pretty steep. I believe the area is fairly well known for rock climbing, which kind of gives everybody a decent idea of how steep it is out there. And so at the beginning that posed a bit of a challenge, finding safe access points on the ground to get crews and heavy equipment in so that they could be working from a safe place on the ground. So with some of that increase in fire size, well, that increase does seem a little bit scary. Sometimes it means that the fire is expanded out to areas where there might be additional safe work locations for crews on the ground. And then from the aircraft perspective, we do have 9 helicopters on site today. Additional helicopters will be available if needed. And with the air tanker base here in Penticton being as close as it is to the incident itself, the aircraft at the base there will be available should we need. I kind of mentioned earlier, they are a little bit limited to what the visibility is. So if you see them flying in the air but you don't see them dropping, it could just be that they're working a different section of the fire that's back and not quite as visible from town. But they'll also be conducting recce's and things throughout the day to kind of give a good overview of what's going on up from the air.
And how are homes doing? Are there any structures that are affected or of concern right now?
So overnight last night on the southwest flank where all the crews and structure protection were working, they put in that 10-foot black line there and they were seeing fairly minimal fire activity. That's the rank 1, rank 2, so kind of smoldering, quiet ground fire. And where the activity was last night was away from the homes and communities, so that's a positive thing. It's been quieter. But since we're moving into the hottest, driest part of the day here, sort of in that mid-afternoon, we do expect to see fire activity pick up. That is the norm, and we're aware of that happening. So we do have the resources that we feel we need out on site right now, but there are additional resources available throughout the province that we can bring out should we need them.
What's a black line or a flat line?
Black.
Black or flat?
Black, B-L-A-C-K.
What is that?
So in some cases, when we're putting in a control line or guard, we either use fire as a tool to remove unburnt fuel, and what that does is because the fire is backing slowly down the hill, it allows us to create or bolster a control line so that when the fire reaches it, it's going to do what we want it to do. It's coming to us on our terms instead of it making it there all on its own.
So it's a 10-foot fire guard?
What do you mean by
fire guard? People call it a fire guard. Is it the same thing as a fire guard? Control line, fire guard?
Control line, black line, fire guard, yeah, same.
Okay. Can you, maybe this is a better question for Mitch, but can you talk about the wind forecast and what you're expecting and how that's going to affect how you go about this?
Yeah, a little bit. We are expecting there to be some stronger forecasted winds out of the south, which likely means that it will push the fire, if those winds do come to fruition, back towards town. And I think from a larger operational perspective, Mitch might be a better person to give you a little bit of a better answer. But as a result of that anticipated forecast, it's why we're looking at some of the more structure protection in some of those evacuation alert areas right now.
Is that closer to town, you mean to Penticton or Heritage?
If it's coming out of the south, it would be pushing the fire north, so a little bit closer back towards town.
Penticton?
Well, it depends on where the fire has burnt. So if there's areas where the fire is completely burnt out of fuel, the fire won't be able to move that way. So it'll be fine, kind of fuel finding its way to where there's pockets of unburned fuel. So likely that would mean more north than towards Skaha Lake.
So how far could a 70 km/h gust sounds pretty strong. How far and how fast could a fire spread in those conditions?
I might defer that one to Mitch.
Well, I mean, I can't give you an exact answer, but we have fire modeling in place that we can run the fuels and the winds and all the factors that affect the movement of the fire and come up with a pretty good idea of, based on all those numbers, where it's going to go and how fast it's going to travel. And again, that's just a computer model, but I can give you examples from the past, and I would say based on that fuel type, if we get some strong winds, then our lines will be challenged, for sure.
Can you just, maybe again for the poll, but is there much fuel left at the Heritage Hills area? Is there much fuel just behind the houses there?
To be honest, I don't know. I haven't been out on site, but given the good work that the crews have done out there and how quiet the fire activity was overnight and into this morning, we're in a comfortable place with it. And should we need, we've got the structure protection and resources that can be added out there.
Do you know, Mitch, is there still fuel there above Heritage Hills?
Sorry?
Above Heritage Hills, where there was a lot of work there, is there still fuel or is it over?
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I just rolled in this afternoon. I don't have that information. Nicole might.
Doesn't sound like it. Okay, just one last question. Did the fire take a run towards Penticton last night? It certainly seems like it's a lot closer today.
Not to the best of my knowledge. Where we saw the increased fire activity was above the Skaha Bluffs area. So it was fairly quiet around where the communities, the structures, the values are right now.
And if things take a turn for the worst this afternoon or tonight, how fast can we expect to see reinforcements come in?
That would be a good question. I'm not sure if we have additional resources on the way right now. I know it's something that we are continuously evaluating. We have had sustained 24-hour operations since the incident started, meaning that there have been resources on site of the incident from its point of ignition, from its time of ignition. So if we needed resources and they had to come from other parts of the province, it would just take the amount of time it takes to travel from another fire center and transition into ours here.
So is right now, BC Wildfire confident with the amount of resources they have?
For the activity on the fire at this point in time, yes, like Mitch said, we do have some modeling, and so we look at what the anticipated weather is going to do and sort of the more long-term forecast and try to plan accordingly. Obviously, we know it's pretty difficult to 100% guarantee that a weather forecast is going to come to fruition, or if it's going to do something completely different than what was anticipated. So we have the ability to respond accordingly. It just means that sometimes there's a little bit of travel time involved with the adjustment.
I've got a question for Mayor Vasilaki.
Okay. Just want to quickly mention that Mitch Pence is M-I-T-C-H, and it's Pence, P-E-N-C-E. Mitch is with BC Wildfire Service. And we're going to probably wrap up our question and answer with BC Wildfire in just a moment. If you do have any more questions for the mayor, now's a good time, and then we'll bring our chair up, and then the guests will be available for one-on-ones afterwards as well, the elected officials and BC Wildfire Service, and myself from the RDOS as well.
Mayor, yesterday was quite a sunny day, and there's a lot of traffic on the Skaha Lake that I could tell. A lot of paddleboarders, jet skiers. What would you say to some visitors and residents in terms of being on the lake right now?
It wouldn't be a very good idea. I think we put enough messages out to the public to make sure that they stay out of the way, especially if they can stay off the lake under any circumstances. Just stay off the lake as the choppers come down and the bombers, they need all the space they can have so that there will be no accidents, and we'll make the situation even worse than it is at the present time. So they're all aware of out there that we prefer that they do not go in the lake.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm just going to ask Carla Kozakovich to come up real quick, the chair of the RDOS, if you have any quick questions for her, and then at that point we'll wrap things up.
Thank you, Eric. Were there any questions related to the RDOS at this time?
Carla, David Molko with CTVs. I just want to understand what goes into the thinking of expanding the evacuation orders when you're looking at this over the next 12, 24, 36 hours into that evacuation alert. So what are the things you're looking at and considering?
Well, that information comes to me from our Emergency Operations Center, who is in contact frequently with the BC Wildfire Service. So based on their advice of a change in direction of the fire, then we make a determination to move forward with expanding an evacuation order. So that detail comes with a recommendation from our Emergency Operations Center asking me to move forward with an evacuation order. I don't have that technical background. I rely on the experts to advise.
And just a quick follow-up, what's the likelihood of homeowners in Heritage Hills getting back in, maybe not to move back in, but to get back in and collect anything else maybe that they haven't had a chance to grab?
Eric, did you want to speak to that? I know if there's an extreme need to get in for something very specific right now, medication that was missed, but really we don't want people going back in at this time. But Eric could speak a little bit further on that process.
The Emergency Operations Center is in regular contact with BC Wildfire, and that's where that information comes from. There is, of course, a section that maybe isn't as close to the fire, but those determinations have to come from BC Wildfire because they have crews on the ground. And again, I don't want to speak for BC Wildfire, but there is, I had a chance to look yesterday, there's a lot of equipment in the area, and that goes back to why it's important for the media and the public to stay out of an evacuation ordered area, because it can be quite dangerous. There's just a lot of moving parts, a lot of equipment going on in the area, a lot of activity. So any thoughts on removing an order or minimizing that order will be made pretty much hour by hour, the determinations, and certainly the RDOS Emergency Operations Center, City of Penticton Emergency Operations Center will be in regular contact with the City of Penticton. We'll give residents as much notice as we can if things are going to change, and we'll do that through the websites I mentioned and on social media. But for those people who are on an evacuation alert, it's important to remember that you may get very little notice if fire conditions change. Again, the information will come from BC Wildfire. It could be a tactical evacuation if things were going in a different direction than we hope they do. So be prepared for that. We're hoping that doesn't happen, but it's always good to be prepared. So I hope that answers your question. And with that, unless there are any other questions, I think we will wrap things up. I know you all have to get back to work. Go ahead.
Last question. Are you anticipating the evacuation notice to become an order?
No, we're not at this point. I'm not. And again, that's really difficult to determine. The evacuation alert right now, there's one in the RDOS, a very large one in the City of Penticton. We're talking about 3,700 properties. Any determination on whether that changes or not will be made public as soon as possible. We're hoping that doesn't happen, but again, it's very difficult to predict the weather, very difficult to predict these fire conditions, so people do have to stay vigilant. And I would like to take just a moment while we wrap it up to say thank you so much to the media. I know it can be a very difficult challenge to get all the information in time and get it out accurately, and I think you've all been doing a really good job, and we certainly appreciate that because it makes our job that much more successful in communicating with the public. So thank you so much, really appreciate it.